Hey, it's Aaron, and today we're going to talk about another one of those controversial subjects. This time is going to be class reductionism, because every once in a while it likes to sneak its ugly little head into the discourse, like I say with a lot of things. But even though it hasn't done so in a couple of weeks now, I feel like it's a good idea to get a preemptive strike on something like this, because it always tends to come back into circulation. So let's get started. So class reductionism is basically the idea that class-based oppression is the only thing that really matters, and it's the only thing that we should be fighting against. Basically putting on the back burner anything that has to do with race or gender or sexuality, and saying that class is the only thing that's important. Now, when it comes to Marxism, a lot of the time they're talking about classes, and when they're talking about classes, they're talking about an upper and lower class, a working class, the proletariat, and the ruling class, usually the bourgeoisie or the capitalists. And they basically say that that is the main divide between people, and we have to be fighting for all of those groups, the oppressed classes, the proletariat, to be at the same level as the bourgeoisie class, basically eliminating class entirely. That's basically the Marxist idea of it. But unfortunately, what we have in our society is a lot of racial and sexual and gender-based oppression that has been put down on us from the hierarchy, from the structure that exists. So rendering everything down to simply a class reductionist framework does not help us. And that's basically my opinion on this, is that class reductionism is too reductive to be useful. The thing about class reductionism, and the thing about revolution in general, is that we need to have the people that know oppression the most to be our leaders in this struggle. And there's no better group than the oppressed minority groups that are already existing than to lead that cause. That's the whole idea behind a lot of Maoist thinking and behind a lot of anarchist thinking as well, is that we need to take the voices that have the least amount of strength and the least amount of power and elevate them to a point of where they can have the ability to breathe free and express the problems that they have. And without having the guidance from those already oppressed groups, the rest of us are just simply not going to be able to fix the problems that exist. The very true fact is that the people that are currently struggling in the system, that have the most oppression, that are facing the most adversity, are the ones that we have to listen to, because they're the ones that have to deal with this every single day. It very much goes into the whole anarchist mantra of the people that do the job are the ones that know the most about that job. If you're a chef, you know the most about your kitchen, you know the most about your restaurant, you know more about it than some asshole who owns the building that lives 100 miles away. The same thing goes when it comes to oppression, and when it comes through to fighting adversity and actually becoming equal. We have to be listening to minority groups who are already in that position, because they've already been fighting that battle. We can't be like liberals with that liberal mantra of always having this white savior come along and make sure all of the minorities are taken care of. We can't do that as a radical revolutionary group. We have to be listening to and following the example of radical minorities and oppressed groups all across the board. They're the ones that have been there the entire time. They're the ones that we have to listen to, and that is the most important aspect of this. The thing about our society and the way that our situation is set up is that, yes, race and class and gender and sexuality are all divisions that we have within our society. And those divisions, I like to call them boxes, are created by the establishment itself. It takes all of us and divides us into individual little boxes, and then places us into those boxes and forces us to fight for those boxes. So even though race or gender or sexuality might or might not exist, or it might be learned behavior, or it might be whatever, it doesn't matter, because racism and sexism and gender disparity all do exist, and we have to treat them as though they are real problems, because they are real problems. And we have to be leading the cause in making sure that those disparities are equalized while we are also fighting for the class struggle, for the class war. That is basically the thing, is that fighting for racial justice or fighting for gender or sexual equality is fighting for class equality, because we need to have that for us to even think about elevating everybody else. We can't just have a revolution for cis white hetero males. It's not going to work that way. It has to be a revolution for the people and by the people. And that means everyone. And we need to be taking a lesson from all of the different groups that have been there in the past. And we need to be moving forward with that information and being better as a society. At least that's the way I look at it. If you do get a chance, please check out my Patreon. Every dollar does help fund this show. And thanks for watching.